Okay, so we need to talk about Christian Pulisic because I am getting quite concerned. And I understand that the US men's national team shouldn't rely on one player, and honestly, we don't really rely on one player, but I can't overemphasize how important Pulisic is to this team, not just being the face of the program, but on the field. Right now, if we were to talk about the best performing players or players with the best form, it would probably be Weston, McKennie, and Balogun. But if we all put them at the same level of form, I still firmly believe that Christian Pulisic is our best player. And honestly, I still think he's the best player the US men's national team has ever had. But right now, he is not at his best coming into the most important tournament, the most important World Cup in US men's national team history. So let's talk about it. Hello. If you're new here, I'm Filippo and welcome to Tactical Manager TV. And today, as many people wanted this episode, I want to talk about the current state and situation of Christian Pulisic. Because the US men's national team's success this summer doesn't exclusively depend on Pulisic, but if we want to go deep in the tournament, if we want to do well in this World Cup, we obviously need an informed Christian Pulisic, an informed and confident Christian Pulisic. But right now, we don't have that. And I know many of you are going to say, he always shows up for the national team, and that is actually not true, and we're going to dive into that as well. So essentially, I want to talk about this season, things that happened in the past, what I think will happen in the World Cup, and what I think the future outlook for Pulisic is in his career with club and country. I'm also hoping that this video will jinx him or reverse jinx him, and he scores over the weekend for Milan. Hopefully. I mean, this dude has 0 goals in 2026, which it's not that bad. It's the same amount of goals that I have. But before we start, I have a request and 2 questions for you. The request is for you to hit the like button right now. Just do it. It helps the channel quite a bit. The 2 questions that I have for you are as follows. 1, what version of Pulisic are we going to get in the World Cup? Do you think it'll be the informed Christian Pulisic or the current Milan Pulisic that we're seeing? And the other question is, over the past 2 years, okay, that we're going to talk about that throughout the video, has Pulisic damaged his US men's national team legacy? Or, ultimately, he'll be judged upon how he does in the 2026 World Cup. Let me know in the comment section down below. Let's roll the intro and start the episode. Okay, so the first thing we have to talk about is the current season, because this is what matters, right? How Christian Pulisic is playing right now, so we can try to project or determine how he'll play in the World Cup. And Christian Pulisic has had a very much Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde-like season with a very strong start, and the second half has been horrendous. And don't worry, this video is not all doom and gloom. I will very soon give you a very optimistic outlook, but first we have to go through the negatives because the current state is very negative. So for the first half of the season, Christian Pulisic had 15 games played, 10 goals scored, and 2 assists. That is really good. For the second half of the season, at the time of this recording, which I believe he still has 2 games to play, Pulisic played 17 games, and he got 1 assist so far. That's it. And he also played for the United States men's national team 2 games against Belgium and Portugal, where he didn't do jack crap. He was not good. This comes after Christian Pulisic rested during the summer by skipping the US men's national team friendlies and Gold Cup so that he could have a great season and be ready for the World Cup. Well, guess what? He's not having a good season, and you can blame Allegri's soccer terrorism or Rafael Leao all you want, but Pulisic is also not performing. Okay, he hasn't had a good season. The first half was quite good. The second half was abysmal. And on top of all of that, the other argument for him to rest during the summer was to be prepared for the World Cup. Based on the current performances, it doesn't look like he's prepared for the World Cup. But don't worry, I am a bit optimistic about that, and we'll address that very soon, which is when I talk about why I think Pulisic is on this cold streak. And it sucks because recently, even Allegri called Christian Pulisic sensitive. I mean, it could have gotten lost in translation. That could be it. But he called Christian Pulisic sensitive when he was talking about his struggle. And then every time I talk about Christian Pulisic's poor form on X, there's always a portion of the fan base that goes crazy and disagrees with me and hates on me and says he always shows up for the national team. And I mean, that's Twitter, that's X. I can go on and tweet the sky is blue and people will hate on me and tell me to go to hell and I'm wrong and the sky's not blue, it's actually purple or whatever. So every time I put that on X, talking about Christian Pulisic's form, they come with their argument saying he always shows up for the national team. Which to a certain extent is true. Christian Pulisic has showed up a lot for the national team, including the 2022 World Cup. Every goal contribution came from Christian Pulisic. But saying he always shows up for the national team is actually not true. Where was Christian Pulisic in the 2024 Copa America? You're going to say he scored a banger against Bolivia. He did. He also wasted a great chance that game, and he didn't really play that well against Bolivia. But okay, I'll cut him some slack because he scored a beautiful goal against the almighty Bolivia in the United States. Not even in the altitude. In the United States. That's fine. Where was he against Panama? Where was he against Uruguay? We got grouped, and he was there. Okay? No excuses. And then you may be saying, well, it's because we had Greg Berhalter. Sure. Who endorsed Berhalter? Who wanted Berhalter back? Who attacked the fans that were criticizing Greg Berhalter? Christian Pulisic. So I don't want to hear excuses about the Copa America. But okay, it's Christian Pulisic. He has a lot of credit with the U.S. national team. Well, he hasn't scored a goal for the U.S. since November of 2024 against Jamaica in the Nations League. Quarterfinals, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, quarterfinals. And that's Jamaica, a dysfunctional team that didn't even qualify for the World Cup. The United States, or actually not the United States, Christian Pulisic hasn't scored for the United States almost in 2 years. And then he could have possibly scored in the Gold Cup, but he skipped it to be ready for this season that we already talked about hasn't been great. Again, does he usually show up for the national team? Yes. But he hasn't really showed up for the national team over the past 2 years. And you may be wondering, why is this happening? Pulisic is such a good player. He's so talented, which I 100% agree with. I told you, I still believe he's the most talented or best player the U.S. men's national team has ever had. And when it comes to club career, he's had the best club career. It's not even close. National team, I think he'll slowly get there. I think he'll break Landon Donovan and Clint Dempsey's goal-scoring record. He'll win more trophies. He'll probably play a few Gold Cups once he comes to MLS. He'll play Gold Cups for the United States. And anyhow, he'll be probably the best USMNT player of all time when it's all said and done. So you may be wondering, why is he struggling? And I think a lot of it comes down to Allegri's comments, saying that he is sensitive. Now, he's not playing poorly because Allegri called him sensitive. But what I mean by that is when the Milan coach, the soccer terrorist Allegri, said that Pulisic was sensitive, I think what he meant is that Pulisic is very much a streaky player, right? Everything is here. When Pulisic scores 1-2 goals, he catches a hot streak, like it was early in the season. And then he scores like for multiple games in a row. But then as soon as he misses a penalty kick, even though that's super rare, right? Pulisic I think he missed one penalty kick his entire career, or has 1 or 2 bad performances, which can happen, he lets it get to his head and he goes on a cold streak. So his highs are very high and his lows are very low, almost as short as Tom Cruise. And that's why I think Allegri was trying to say when he called Christian Pulisic sensitive, right? He didn't mean he was sensitive, that he gets offended by anything. He just thinks that Pulisic lets a lot of the things that happen in the game get to his mind way too easily. So when he's confident, he's thriving. As soon as he has 1 or 2 bad games, that cold streak comes in. And until he snaps out of it, the performances don't get better. And mind you, obviously, like every human, if you're not performing, you're not doing well, your confidence goes down. But the top players in the world never let their confidence drop. And the level never goes bad. They play poorly one game, the next game they do well. It's essentially like the legendary Kobe Bryant. You miss, you keep shooting, and you shoot more, and you keep shooting. If you believe in yourself, you never let it drop. That's not Christian Pulisic. The mentality doesn't seem to be there with him. So if you want a positive outlook for the World Cup, I think Pulisic's poor form has been dragging for quite some time. But the same way he catches a cold streak very easily, he can catch a hot streak very easily. And we're coming into the World Cup. So we have a friendly against Germany. We have a friendly against Senegal. If Pulisic can get a goal or 2 in those games, or a very good performance in the one game before the World Cup, I literally believe that we'll see a different version of Christian Pulisic in a matter of no time. All he needs is that one good performance, a goal, anything, even if it's a penalty kick. That quickly shifts his mentality and he catches a hot streak. Now, if he doesn't score at all for Milan the next 2 games, if he doesn't score at all against Germany and Senegal, then I hate to break it to you, at least for the very first game of the World Cup, we're probably not going to see a good version of Christian Pulisic. Now, again, all he needs is one game. Once he gets that one game going, I think he'll go on a 3, 4, 5 game streak that he'll do tremendously. And the World Cup is a short tournament. So if we can find a way to get Christian Pulisic to just get a goal, a good performance, he'll catch fire during the World Cup. I firmly believe that. So that's the optimistic outlook. I think Christian Pulisic can snap out of this cold streak very quickly. I know you may be saying it's been lasting 6 months, but my point is like all it takes is one game. In the past 6 months, he just hasn't had that game. Now let's talk about his legacy, right? Because I still firmly believe when it's all said and done, he'll be the greatest USMNT player of all time based on the eye test and statistically speaking. I've said that before. Even though I'm a bigger fan of Clint Dempsey, I can recognize that I think Pulisic's the most talented and best player the US men's national team has ever had. And I think the 2026 World Cup will be very important for his legacy. And let me tell you a few things. He has accomplished a lot for the U.S. men's national team, right? Mostly in like Nations League, pulling some big goals here and there and good performances, including good performances in the 2022 World Cup. Every goal contribution from the United States in the 2022 World Cup came from Christian Pulisic. But Pulisic has also done and been a part of certain things that happened to the U.S. men's national team over the past few years that have hurt his legacy quite a bit. Right, he was part of the Cuba team, the one we played in Cuba in 2017, where we didn't qualify for the 2018 World Cup when we played Trinidad and Tobago. Now, mind you, I don't blame Pulisic there. Actually, on the contrary, I think he's a victim of that scenario because he was the best player. It was an aging generation. They fired Jurgen and got Bruce Arena. It was messy, and Pulisic was actually carrying that team, in my opinion. So I don't blame him for that. But unfortunately, he was there, right? There's that picture of Pulisic crying because he was there. And it's just unfortunate because he actually didn't deserve that. But fast forward to recent times, Pulisic has done a few things that have hurt his legacy. When he endorsed Greg Berhalter, that essentially, honestly, I know a lot of people called me a Berhalter hater and all that, but after the 2022 World Cup, pretty much everyone wanted Berhalter gone. Even the ones that supported him during the 2022 cycle, they wanted him gone. And Pulisic didn't only endorse Greg Berhalter, he also, I think he called the fans or he called people that criticized him just haters and he didn't understand it and blah, blah, blah. So that definitely hurt his legacy a little bit. The other thing that hurt his legacy was the 2024 Copa America. Why? Because everyone that wanted Berhalter gone got proven right. And Pulisic was there, he was healthy, he was playing, and he was part of one of the biggest embarrassments in U.S. men's national team history. The Golden Generation became the first host nation in Copa America history to get grouped at home. The first ever. And it was the United States with the Golden Generation leading into the 2026 World Cup, which is the biggest event in U.S. men's national team history. And Pulisic was, I guess, the face of that. And when it comes to his career in Europe, it's kind of weird, right? Because his career in Europe is actually very good. This guy won a Champions League with Chelsea, playing a key role, and people are going to say, he was a backup in the final. Yeah, watch the other knockout rounds. I think he got 2 or 3 men at the matches. He was crucial for Chelsea to qualify to the Champions League the season before, and for Chelsea to win the Champions League, regardless of him being in some weird rotation under Thomas Tuchel. I don't care what you say. Don't try to rewrite history. Pulisic was crucial for Chelsea to win the Champions League. But at the same time, his career in Europe has been a bit underwhelming to a certain extent, right? With Chelsea, at the end of the day, he left because things didn't work out. We can blame the coach. We can blame injuries. He had one successful season there, had some big highlights, but he's not a flop with Chelsea. I don't agree with people that say he was a flop, but I wouldn't consider a major success. Then he goes to Milan, and he's been quite good for Milan. But this is also one of the worst Milans I have ever seen in my lifetime. This is not a good Milan side, and Christian Pulisic, unfortunately, is a part of that. That's not to take away his great individual performances for Milan, but it's just not the Milan that we saw in the 2000s, okay? The one that was a Champions League contender, winning the Scudetto. They're not that, right? They're not. And if you go back a few years, we saw Pulisic as he was like the Eden Hazard replacement at Chelsea. So this world-class player that would win 1, 2 Champions League, win the league, and his career didn't turn out to be that. He's still a very good player. Best USMNT career in Europe I have ever seen. But at the same time, maybe it's my fault. Maybe I had too high of expectations for Pulisic, but I expected more of his career in Europe. And you would be saying his career in Europe isn't done. You are right. But I do think that Pulisic, by somewhere between 2028 and 2030, I think he'll be back in MLS. Not back, he never played in MLS. He'll be in MLS. Why? Too much money, coming towards more of the end of his career. And, I mean, the United States is home, so it makes sense. So my point is, I think he has another 2 or 3 good seasons in Europe. He might get a move from Milan, who knows, go to the Premier League. But I don't think that there will be any massive accomplishments in terms of winning a Premier League or winning the Champions League. Or shall I say, winning the Champions League again. Regardless, I would say, based on my expectations, I would say his career in Europe was a B+. If it ended today. Now, could he do something crazy still and bump it up to an A? Yes, but I give it a B+. Last but not least, what do I expect from Christian Pulisic in the World Cup? So I know a lot of people say I'm very negative, but I'm actually a very optimistic guy. And I think what will happen is Christian Pulisic will snap out of the cold streak before the World Cup. As soon as the World Cup vibe starts to go around him and he starts to feel it, I think he'll perform very well against Germany and against Senegal. And after that, we're going to see a very confident Christian Pulisic in the group stage. And I would not be surprised if he got 2 to 3 goal contributions throughout the first 3 games of the World Cup. So my prediction for Christian Pulisic is that alongside Balogun, he will be the top playmaker. Well, Balogun will be the playmaker, but in terms of goal contributions, him and Balogun will be the top 2 for the United States in the World Cup. I think Pulisic will perform. When push comes to shove, he will perform for the US men's national team in the 2026 World Cup. And this is not me being delusional. I truly believe that'll happen. I think he'll be pumped, he'll be excited, he'll be confident, he'll get it going, he'll score a goal or 2 against Senegal or Germany, and by the time the World Cup arrives, we're going to see a completely different version of Christian Pulisic right now. We'll see something more similar to what we saw in the first half of the season with Milan. But again, that's just my opinion on Pulisic. Am I concerned? Yes, but I am cautiously optimistic about it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you think of Pulisic's legacy with the US men's national team? Is he going to be the greatest USMNT player of all time when it's all said and done? How's he going to do in the 2026 World Cup? And let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below while you're dropping a like in this video. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day.